We're going to do a little bit more with addition and subtraction of fractions here. But as a quick reminder, when you have a mixed number, like we do here, 3 and 1/4, that does not mean 3 times 1/4, it means 3 plus 1/4. So anytime you have a mixed number, you're going to take this whole number here and you're going to add to it the fractional part of that mixed number. So we could just simply rewrite this. If the ultimate goal here in this problem is to rewrite 3 and 1/4 as the fraction, a first step in doing that could be to break apart the two parts. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3 plus 1/4, because that's really what our mixed number means. It means our whole number, 3, plus the 1/4 that's after it. Now, in order to add these two together, we first of all have to have the same denominator. Well, over here in our 3, we don't have a denominator yet. However, even though it was not written there, the denominator is always assumed and known to be 1, because 3 divided by 1 is just simply the same thing as 3. At this point, we now have two fractions, 3 over 1 plus 1 over 4. To create the common denominator that we're after, we use what we learned a lesson or two back. We're going to take this second denominator here, the denominator in our second fraction, and we're going to multiply it in the top and bottom by our first fraction. So what we have here is we have 3 over 1, and we're going to multiply that by the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. 3 over 1 times 4 over 4 is the same thing as 12 over 4. Now, our first number, 3 over 1, is now rewritten as 12 over 4. And since our second fraction already has a denominator of 4, we don't need to do anything to it. So I'm just going to simply rewrite it down here next to the 12 over 4. We now have the same denominator, 4, so that's going to remain in our denominator identically, and then we're going to add our numerators together. 12 plus 1 is 13. So we can see that when you have a mixed number, it's the same thing as breaking apart that whole number, adding to it the fraction, changing that whole number to a fraction by placing a 1 under it, and then creating an equivalent fraction that has the same denominator as the denominator in the fraction that was part of the mixed number. And that's what we did here. We changed 3 over 1 to 12 over 4, added the 1/4 to it, and got 13 over 4. Now we're going to do the same type of thing. We don't have a mixed number, but what we do have is we have a term here that does not have a denominator. So how can we subtract a fraction from a number that's not a fraction? Well, we do it by first of all making a fraction out of our first number. How do we do that? We simply put a 1 in the denominator. Remember, 2x over 1 is the same thing as 2x. So we haven't changed anything here as far as its value. Now what we need to do is we need to change both of these fractions into equivalent fractions that has the same denominator. So we come here to our second fraction, take a look at the denominator for it. It's x minus 2. That's what we're going to multiply our 2x over 1 by. We're going to multiply it by x minus 2 on the top and x minus 2 on the bottom. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2x times x minus 2 on the top. And then on the bottom, we're also going to take our 1 and we're going to multiply it by 2x minus 2. Let's go ahead and calculate this out. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times a minus 2 is minus 4x. In the bottom, 1 times x is x. 1 times minus 2 is 2. Minus 2. So what we have here is 2x squared minus 4x over x minus 2. So what we've done is we've taken our first number, made a fraction out of it, and changed it into an equivalent fraction down here. It has x minus 2 in the denominator. Let's take a look at our second fraction. it already has an x minus 2 in the denominator. So I'm just going to simply rewrite that down here. 3 over x minus 2. At this point, we now have x minus 2 in our denominator. Both of our fractions now have the same denominator. So we're going to rewrite the x minus 2 over in our answer here, in our denominator. Now we're going to take the top part and combine like terms. We have 2x squared, but there are no other x squared terms. So we are left with 2x squared in the top. Our next term has a degree of 1 minus 4x. Well, there are no other terms in the top that have a degree of 1. So we're going to simply rewrite that minus 4x there. And then lastly, we're subtracting a 3. And there are no other constants, so there is nothing to combine that minus 3 with. What that then leaves us as an answer is 2x to the 4th minus 4x minus 3 over x minus 2. So that's how we got to our answer there. Quickly then, as a review, when you add or subtract a polynomial that has no denominator written, it's often helpful to rewrite that polynomial as a fraction with 1 in the denominator. And then at that point you can proceed on with your normal manner of solving the problem, which oftentimes includes multiplying that number that you just created and put a 1 under by the denominator of your second fraction to create an equivalent fraction so that you can now get the same denominator in both of the terms that you're going to be combining together through adding or subtracting. Okay, that finishes up session 75.